Ah, no, pero no, tanto no. No. ¿Ah, sí? Okay, let's leave it. I leave it here with the lights. Okay, shall we start? I think it's the light is okay. Yeah, yeah. I think that we can. Sorry about the technical issues, but the thing is that, well, as this will be mostly based on photographs of visual material, so it is needed to have better atmosphere, right? Well, now, yes, without further ado, I would like to welcome Professor Roger Sugden at USAL for the first, but hopefully not the last time. So we have been acquainted with Roger and Marcela through Ofelia Beltri. She is a research director here at USAL, and she kindly invited us to, well, to invite Roger as well for this presentation, which involves economics, but it also involves social issues, and it also involves language, because we will see how through words and also visual language, probably we will get enlightened about some realities. Probably you have seen Professor Sugden's biography, because if you are here, it means that you have seen and read something about him. So I would briefly mention that he has a PhD in economics from the University of Warwick in England, and is currently professor at the Okanagan campus of the University of British Columbia, Canada, in the territories of the Syilx Okanagan people. And this is relevant for the presentation. Then I can also say that he has been a professor at different universities in the United Kingdom, in Italy, in Germany, among other places, and that he's from Cambridge, England, and he has divided most of his time between the UK, Canada, and Argentina. So welcome, Roger. And well, at the end, I will let you know something else very interesting that is to come in the next few days and concerns Roger and Ofelia. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Veronica, and thanks for the invitation to come and speak here. It's a real privilege for me to come and share some of my work with you. So thanks very much for that. What I'm going to talk about, introduce over the next half an hour or so, is a body of work that is, I think, novel in the way that it brings together study of economies and the making and disseminating of photographs. It's not very common to use photographic analysis at the heart of economic analysis, but I'm trying to do that. Just kind of a brief overview of where I'm going to go over the next half hour or so. The aim of the work I'm going to talk more about, but it's basically to try and communicate with and engage with people and groups of people who are interested or might be interested in economies, in market economies, not as an abstract academic thing, but as a reality of their everyday life. My work starts from the study of monopoly capitalism. It's a view of social and economic development. I'll say a little bit more about that later. It uses a photographic approach in part to try to interpret my understanding of the economy and economic issues, but also to try and add to that understanding. And through the photographs, in part, I'm trying to convey my interpretation of the economy and all of the economic and social issues that I'm interested in. But I'm also asking audiences to make their own interpretations. In many ways, the importance of photographs to me is one big question. Like, what do you think of this? What do you make of what you're seeing? So questioning on my part, stimulating questioning, is why I'm doing it. And I'm also trying deliberately to look in the nooks and crannies, in the corners of an economy, and at the everyday. So I'm looking at things that actually are maybe familiar, but people got out of the habit of looking at and questioning. That's what I'm trying to do, okay? The photographs that I will, may I turn that? The photographs that I will, that I'm showing, were all made in the Okanagan region of Canada. So that's Canada. It's in the west, in British Columbia, which is this area here. And the photographs are made here in the Okanagan. It's okay. I use my finger. I'm happy with my finger, really. So they're all made here. Okay. This is part of the territories of the Syilx Okanagan Nation. The territories of the Syilx Okanagan Nation, in fact, much larger than what is now called the Okanagan. It's kind of more or less all of this. And in fact, going down here, this is the US border. All of this is a colonial construct, of course. Okay? So it's in the Okanagan. This is, you can't see that very well from here, but this is a map of the Okanagan. It's a region that's dominated by a lake. The lake is, I'm not very good at kilometers. I think it's about 150 miles long. So what would that be? I don't know, 300 kilometers, a bit more. Huge lake. Many of the photographs are made in the city of Kelowna. It's the biggest city, which is kind of here in the middle. Others are made in Vernon at the top, Penticton at the bottom, Summerland is here. And there are some that are made, it's not even on the map, it's down here. They're not very good details maps even of this area. Okay, this is one that actually we had made for a different project. But this is where I'm looking, okay? And in particular, the work looks at 6 segments. It looks in municipal council chambers, in particular at the photograph of the reigning monarch of Canada that appears in the council chambers. It's looking in city streets where the municipalities have put up archive photographs. And I think they provide some interesting comment on the economy. In a cemetery where there are graves that are dating back perhaps 100 years that have lost their markers. They didn't have a stone on them. So fairly recently, the city of Kelowna put a new stone. In outdoor shelters for people without housing, and in public places in remembrance of Indigenous children who were in or are in unmarked graves in their school. They died at school, and they were undocumented deaths, and they're unmarked graves. So now I'm going to go through the presentation. When I've done that, I'll put the photographs on a loop and say a little bit more about my approach. So the first segment is in the council chambers. Okay, this happens to be the city of Penticton. By convention, every council chamber has a picture of the reigning monarch. I moved to the Okanagan in 2012. I'm English. I was quite shocked. I'm ignorant. I was quite shocked that the reigning monarch is in fact the monarch of the United Kingdom. So these photographs are all made between 2020 and 2025. Queen Elizabeth and her husband, the Duke of Edinburgh. It's okay. Another council chamber in the town of Oliver. This is a view from the mayor's seat, okay? Looking straight at the Queen with the teacups. I found that quite funny, really, at the end of the room. Various pictures of Queen Elizabeth were used. One of them had Queen Victoria in the background. Victoria was said to be an enthusiastic imperialist, and she took an intense interest in her colonial subjects. She emphasized her role as the mother of the British Empire. She never visited Canada. This is the city of Vernon. You can't see this very well here, but that's actually a reflection of the monarch's portrait in the middle. This is Summerland, district of Summerland. This is Vernon again. When the Queen died, they draped her picture in black for a period of time. She was succeeded by her son, Charles, in May 2023. Canadian authorities asked for an official portrait. While they were waiting for it, they left the hook. They left the space for the monarch. And then eventually he came. That's in Summerland. This is an archive photograph in the streets of Kelowna. It's on a utility box, you know, these boxes that have like electric cables and things like that. More archive photographs on utility boxes. And then we go into the next segment. This is an outdoor shelter set up for people without housing. That's the shelter. If you could see clearly on the photograph, there's toilet facilities here. Okay, this is just an open space. By law, the city has to provide some space. Okay, and they provide outdoor space. This was open for a few months in 2020, and then they opened another. This is another outdoor shelter for people to come and put their tents, or, if they've got them, sleep. Yeah. The shelters had rules, both shelters had rules that were on signage at the shelter. You could set up your equipment or claim a space on the ground at 7 o'clock in the evening onwards. By 9 o'clock in the following morning, you had to leave and take your possessions with you, and you bring them back at 7 o'clock at night if you wish. And the morning move out was, when I was making these photographs, always policed heavily, strongly. So these are enforcement officers. Vehicles of the enforcement officers. This is the facilities and recreation park, washing facilities on the left, and a broom that had been left. I only went in the facility during the day. Parks weren't used during the day. In the months that I was taking these photographs, I was the only person that was in there, except on one occasion, I was challenged by a police officer as to why I was there, because I think he thought I wanted to put my tent up or something. I told him what I was doing, and he walked away. But if I'd had a tent, he probably wouldn't have walked away. It's the floor of Bailey Avenue shelter. Also the floor. Many people without housing use bicycles to get around the city. That's the wall of Bailey Avenue shelter. Anthony Hernandez did some fantastic work that really quite inspired me in a lot of this on Los Angeles, called Landscapes for the Homeless. He made photographs of the landscapes that the homeless people experienced. And he commented, "The homeless stand for the failure to face the future. Maybe forever homeless is the future." This is another archive photograph on a utility box. It's actually of a police officer in 1895 sitting on a donkey. This is another archive photograph, and that's actually Kelowna. I forget when it's from. I can look it up. I forget. 40s, I think, 1940s. And that's the lake you can see in the middle, in the back. This is another segment. This segment is entirely based around a particular road that runs up the mountain, used by a lot of people for leisure. It's a forest service road. It's actually for taking logs off of the mountain, but people use it for leisure. And they treat the foliage, put down herbicide. This is a sign that says, "Be careful, they've put down herbicide against invasive species." Invasive species are typically introduced to British Columbia through human activities, generally originate from Europe and Asia. The invasive plants lack natural predators and pathogens that would otherwise keep their populations in check. A common characteristic of all invasive plants is their aggressive competitive behavior. In general, they outcompete native plants. This is a campfire. So a feature of this road is that people will have campfires. They like to have campfires and do whatever you do with a campfire. And they leave things behind. This is trash, empty bottles and bits of drug, syringe and so on in there as well, for example. That is a campfire. And the Okanagan nowadays sells itself as a year-round playground for people to come and enjoy. That's in the ashes of a campfire. And the significance of this is that is the turtle. Turtle Island is an indigenous name for what's also known, what we know as North America. Also the ashes of a campfire. McDonald's 2024 annual report says that the corporation is on target for 50,000 restaurants around the world in the next couple of years. These campfires are like, for somebody like me, they're in the middle of nowhere. I mean, this is a dirt road that goes up a mountain. Nobody lives up there. That's not quite true. Some people just go off the grid, so-called, up there. Okay? But basically, it's a road that's a dead end. It doesn't lead anywhere other than the top of the mountain. Also in the after effects of a campfire. Another utility photo, a photograph on utility boxes. This is actually of a military encampment in the Okanagan in the 1940s. That's a reflection in the front of the Provincial Court of British Columbia in Kelowna. It's a glass front. It's a reflection of the court steps. In 2021, it was announced by Chief Roseanne Casimir of one of the Indigenous bands in the Okanagan that the remains of 215 children who were students of the Kamloops Indian Residential School, had been found, had been confirmed. So the language does matter here. The bands always knew the children's bodies were there. They didn't have documented proof in Western terms, and what happened here is that they used modern technologies to X-ray scan the ground and confirmed the presence of the bodies. To our knowledge, the chief said, these missing children are undocumented deaths. Some were as young as 3 years old. Kamloops Indian Residential School was set up in 1890, was run by the Roman Catholic Church until 1969. It was one of 2 residential schools that most Indigenous children in the Okanagan were sent to. It's not in the Okanagan itself, it's just outside. On hearing that of the confirmation of the loss, many people placed shoes and toys in public places in remembrance of the children. So that is the steps of the Provincial Court of British Columbia in Vernon. That is the foot of a sculpture. The sculpture is called Mother Earth, Voice of Mother Earth. It's actually by an Indigenous sculptor in Summerland. People left things there. It is a doll that was left in Vernon in remembrance of the children. Shoes left outside a Salvation Army facility. And that's the steps of the Provincial Court of British Columbia. Residential schools, these words are taken from a group that study Indigenous peoples of British Columbia at UBC, actually, but also some of these words I'm going to refer to now are from the Syilx Okanagan Nation itself. So they're not my words. So residential schools were routinely overcrowded, underfunded, rife with disease. Many children, weakened by malnutrition, did not survive. Mortality rates in some schools exceeded 60%. And this is the bit from the Syilx Okanagan Nation itself. Crudely put, the purpose of the schools was to kill the Indian in the child. Genocide is another word for it. This is an archive photograph reflected in signage at a cemetery, so-called Pioneer Cemetery in Kelowna. This is the cemetery, images of the cemetery. And this starts to introduce stones. These are 2 stones at the top that were laid on over 100 graves that were at the time unmarked. They knew who the people were buried there, but they were unmarked. They laid laid stones on over 100 graves. This is one of the stones. I'm not showing any stone in full because this is not about the individual people who are buried there. I'm trying to respect those people. All of this work is about the economic system. So I deliberately don't pull out individuals, including in a cemetery. Okay? So this is the stone. The stones were laid in 2005. These graves could be as old as 100 years old. They might not be that old, all of them. Okay? You could still buy a plot in that cemetery today, I think. Stones were laid in 2005 in a project called Marking Our Past, and it had financial backing from the municipality. It's another view of the stones. The stones are uniform, same size. Typically each has the name of the person, year of birth, year of death, and a comment. It's unusual for gravestones to have these sorts of comments. The comments are often with the occupation of the person. So this actually says, I think, like 1870s pioneer farmer. Pioneer is a word that's very often used. It's a very important word because a pioneer, in this terms, is a colonial settler. It's not an indigenous person. None of these people would be indigenous, okay? And this is what frankly affected me when I first saw these. Every one of these stones has the logo of the city of Kelowna celebrating its centenary. That's the top of the logo. When I make photographs, I don't interfere with what's in front of me. Sometimes in a council chamber, I've moved a chair, nothing else, okay? But like one day I came to the cemetery and somebody had placed this photograph here with this stone on top. Again, I'm trying to respect whoever this is, so it's not, I deliberately don't have the full photograph here. This is also the cemetery. So Pioneer Cemetery has what's called adornment guidelines. I've become very interested in cemeteries. Many cemeteries have adornment guidelines, what you can put there according to the rules. And in this cemetery, they're posted on signage. And once a year, they have what they call an adornment refresh. So what happens is, run by the city, again, municipality, they remove everything from the graves that shouldn't be there. These will be plastic flowers, okay, and different pots that don't meet the rules. And what they do is, they do this at the beginning of March, first 2 weeks of March, and they put them at the end of the rows of graves, and you can come and pick them up if you want. Otherwise, they dump them, they throw them out. This is also the cleanup. That teddy bear was collected by somebody. It's a fantastic little book by Robert Pogue Harrison called something like The Domain of the Dead, I think. And he asks, to whom does the corpse belong? Who has jurisdiction over its fate? Love it. That's another archive photograph on a utility box in Kelowna. And to conclude, there is a quote by, I've gone blank on the name of the novel. Sorry, I've just gone blank for a minute. I'll look it up later. But the quote from the novel is, evil is not what we should fear. Creatures with power acting in their own interest, that is what should make us shudder. And then I observe many of the studies that influence what happens in market economies assume that people and organizations act in their own interest. It's the end, that's the presentation. Can we put the loop on now, please? And the loop will just show the photographs as I'm continuing to explain a bit more about what I'm doing, trying to do. So my approach to photographing is, if I visit somewhere, I consider myself a visitor to the Okanagan, for example. And when I visit somewhere, I wander around deliberately. I follow my curiosity. I look in the nooks and crannies, in the corners, and come across things that are unexpected. And I try and feel what's there. I just feel what's there. I came to realize, this is not rocket science, but I didn't know this to begin with, but I came to realize that what I see and what I feel is very strongly influenced by the fact that I've been studying monopoly capitalism and so on for 40 years or something. So actually this project began when I walked to or on my bike actually, into one of those outdoor shelters for people without housing. And I came home and I was kind of affected by what I saw, and I tried to understand why. And I realized it was rooted in my understanding of monopoly capitalism, and so on. So my photographs, I think, start with my research and teaching in economics, but then they do go on their own journey. And I'm very deliberate about mixing reason and evidence, sensibility and mystery, just letting it go and seeing what comes out. I don't use AI in the photographs, so well, with one exception. I don't use AI. The photographs are as much as any photograph, they're what's in front of me. Okay? Strictly speaking, when I edit very lightly, but all the modern softwares use AI in editing. So strictly speaking, there's some AI in there, but they're not generated by AI. As I said, I've worked in universities for many years studying monopoly capitalism. And I just want to have a few words on what I think monopoly capitalism is about. I should also actually say something about what I think an economy is, because I've come to realize many people think economies are, an economy is like a system of finance, something to do with money. I think that's wrong. Economies include things to do with finance and money, but much more. And finance and money aren't the primary. I think the primary concern, in my view of economics, it's my view, right? People take a different view, it's kind of fine, obviously. But an economy is a set of interconnected behaviors and structures, processes, ways of doing things that organize what we do with scarce resources. It's a bit like saying, there's only 24 hours in a day, how are we going to allocate our time in that 24 hours? How is that going to happen for 40-odd million people in Argentina? Well, in Argentina, there are structures and processes and ways of making that allocation. What technologies are we going to use? There's not an infinite amount of technology. We have to create it, we have to decide how to use it. This is all about scarce resources. What's the process for processes and so on for organizing that? That's what economies are about for me. A monopoly capitalism analysis is a view of market economies. And it really is centered on a concern with concentrated power. Who has power? How is power used? For whose benefit? At whose expense? I think they are the big issues big questions in economics. And associated with that, only some people have a say, have a voice. You could argue everybody's got a voice, but many people aren't listened to. So who has a voice? Who's listened to? Who cultivates the voice? Who is able to cultivate their voice through education and so on? Who is not? I think those are the big issues. And in the world of monopoly capitalism, large corporations are especially influential. They're influential in their own right, in the sense that they produce and sell, they advertise, they brand, they seek to mold consumers to their aims and objectives of the corporation. They nurture relations with powerful organizations, with governments, with monarchies, for example, with churches, religions, other institutions. And they're copied. So, for example, a municipality having a logo and putting that in front of citizens is very common. It's less common to do that on a gravestone. But that's the nature of this monopoly capitalist world, I think. As a starting, I view this as a starting point for trying to understand and think about economies. In the field of economic and social development, using photography as a research approach, an approach to inquiry, is not common. Sometimes photographs are used to illustrate, but as a means of actual analysis of inquiry and so on, it is not common at all. And for me, that's its appeal and its difficulty. I think the appeal is that the photographs can help us to focus attention on things that we take for granted and that we really perhaps ignore out of habit or familiarity. And so defamiliarization is a key part of this work. The difficulty of using photographs is that it's not common in economics. Okay, so to actually engage people on economies using photographs can be a bit of a hurdle. There's a lot of evidence that photographs are a very effective way in general for engaging people, because you can put a photograph up. In some sense, we can all see it. We all have a different view on it. We can therefore discuss things. And out of that, new things maybe arise, new meanings are created or emerge, revealed, perhaps more than created. So overall, I see the photographs as intended for people interested in economies they habit, and whether they use the word economies or not, all that means is people who are interested in the world that's around them. Because whether you know it or not, that's an economy. So they're intended for those people, and on my part, I view them as my question, as my witness, I view them as some form of evidence, and actually sometimes I view them as my protest. And then lastly, just a word on the title of the work, which is Forever Future, Looking in the Nooks and Crannies of a Market Economy. The Forever Future label comes out of that quote from Hernandez about the homeless standing for the failure to face the future. Maybe forever homeless is the future. I'm wondering, are the photographs depicting our forever future? And kind of associated with that, I think what the work is doing is looking in the nooks and crannies, looking in the corners of our economic and social systems. And I think it's trying to point to practices that I fear will be fossilized in the forever future unless people choose something else. It's up to people. Thank you. Thanks very much.
Thank you very much, Roger. Now, I would like participants here at this lecture to ask questions or provide comments. Before he leaves, I would like to thank the presence of Juan Martín. He is the head of the economics degree here at USAL, so thanks for coming. He has to teach now, so that is why he's leaving. And we also thank the presence of students from the economics degree. So thanks for being here, and maybe if there are questions from the modern languages students or economics students, they are all welcome now. While you think, or if you have any question, I was thinking, Roger, about this, and in these times of social media, when we are kind of forced to follow fashions or to consume things that are thrown before our eyes with all the scrolling on the phones and everything, we are led into this economy system that you mentioned before, in which we lose track of what is really happening. So there are many invisibilities, and these photographs of yours really showed some naked, the contact with reality itself, the shelters, the cemetery. So thanks for bringing that reality without the mediation that we usually have through social media or these big companies, corporations that induce us to see things and to forget seeing others. So that I really appreciate that. Yeah.
It's a separate project and a really important project to actually look at what's on social media. Some people are doing that photographically at the moment, not with respect to the sorts of concerns with economies and economic and social issues that I would have, but very much in terms of cult followings and so on. So I think that's really emerging, and we'll see a lot more work around that emerging. But actually engaging with social media, if I'm being honest, on these issues, I have resisted because I find this hard enough to begin with, to understand what I'm trying to do and why. And because I'm really interested fundamentally in, I think people are still interested in coming together in a face-to-face way and engaging. And I think in those environments, you can get a different conversation going.
Totally, yeah. I agree with that. Well, any comment, question? No? Something what I wanted to say before the lecture, it's not that I forgot, but I wanted to give the word to Roger first, but Roger and Ofelia are presenting their work, their artwork at La Botica del Ángel very soon. So this is also a space for invitation for all of you to engage again in person in this beautiful, beautiful experience. The experience of seeing their work. They are two artists that are sharing their art with us as a community, and also experiencing the place, La Botica del Ángel, which is a beautiful landmark of the city of Buenos Aires. So if you want to go, it's on the 11th. The formal presentation will be on the 11th of September at 7 p.m. at La Botica, which is in Luis Sáenz Peña between Mexico and Venezuela. So then you can find it very easily, on online, or you can ask us. And so again, I think that provides the place and the time to be there in person and to engage in conversation and to share maybe what you feel when you see their work. Maybe can you expand on what you are going to present there?
So Ophelia Veltri is showing some mixed media work, and I'm very reluctant to speak for Ophelia because I would choose the wrong words. But she's really interested and concerned with dystopia, with our realities being dystopian. She's very concerned about what that implies for nature and our relation with the natural world. And she also has hope. I think she has more explicit hope than is often seen in my work, that's for sure. Reasons I like working with Ophelia, I have to say. Somehow she has work that's about dystopia and being hopeful. I'm not sure how that works. The work I have in this, I actually think I don't use the words dystopia and so on, but it is about a form of dystopia, because I think it's about the dystopia of a market economy. And this work is, I'm showing about 12 photographs which are of street posters in Argentina. They're either, I think actually they're all from Mar del Plata, but the project that I have on street posters is from Buenos Aires and Mar del Plata. And there is a view of street posters and what one might experience as you walk down the street, what that's telling you about the atmosphere of the economy that you have. I don't think it's especially about Argentina, even though it's all of the photographs are from Argentina. I see it as about 21st century market economies. But I think street posters here are an extraordinarily interesting Argentinian way into looking at that issue. And so I'm showing some of those, some of that work, which I think does have some hope, but not as much hope as a failures work.
The name is very interesting. Think is the name of the exhibition. So it will be on from the 9th to the 19th at La Botica. But if you would like to share a moment with them both, it's the 11th at 7 p.m. So you're all...
We're putting it up tomorrow. So I hope the work has arrived from Mar del Plata, okay?
It has. Yes, I can attest that it has.
I'll believe it when it's on the wall.
Yeah, and I was actually going to ask you, like maybe as my last question about, well, you have partly answered when you said that the posters that you are presenting at La Botica have to do with the Argentine reality or come from Argentine streets. But in this, when you mentioned that in order to take these photographs, you take the time to wander around, to go with your bicycle or on foot. And if in doing that in Argentina or in Buenos Aires or in Mar del Plata, if you have found similarities in the sense of the invisibilities that are here and that are not, again, visible or primarily seen by us in our economy in Argentina.
Says it's on. Yeah, let's try. Maybe it's on now.
Yeah.
Yeah, a similarity, I think, is the aggression. And in fact, to be honest, I first started doing the work on street posters here immediately. It's our first trip to Argentina after COVID. I normally come to Argentina. I don't speak Spanish, but I've been coming to Argentina for 30 years. But in COVID, I was stuck in Canada. We were stuck in Canada. And this was the first trip after COVID here, and I'm walking the streets, and I couldn't believe the aggression I saw. But then I realized I was seeing the same aggression in Canada, but it's not street posters in the same way. I'm from Cambridge, England. So since starting this, I walked streets of parts of Cambridge, England. Oh, you see the same things. In fact, I'm going on a field trip to Cambridge, England in October to try and get some photographs of posters there to bring into the Argentinian work as well. So I see that similarity. I have to say, this might be a failure of my part, a failing in terms of certain forms of understanding, but I've always been struck how about the similarities between, for example, England and Argentina. The characteristics play out in a very Argentinian way or a very English way, but they're the same issues, I think, that you see there. And then you go to, this is maybe no surprise, British Columbia, it's the same again. So I think that fuels my interest in the system as against trying to make this the fault or issue for certain people in the system. I think we have a very human story in front of our eyes as a result of the system. And it's the system that kind of worries me. I should also say, by the way, if there's anybody here still from the economics group, the real inspiration, the inspirations for the poster's work is two things. One, the raw emotion, am I seeing this? And the other is the economics of Alfred Marshall from more or less 100 years ago. Alfred Marshall made these comments about economies having an atmosphere. And today, the only group of people that ever talk about economic atmosphere that I'm aware of are people who look at what's called industrial districts in Italy. Doesn't matter, it's a particular way of organizing things in Italy. But when you go back to look at Marshall, every economy has its atmosphere, and actually the atmosphere matters. And actually the atmosphere is manipulated. When you think about it, why wouldn't it be? But it's ignored. And so that's why I've really become involved in this project there, and I'm seeing similarities, more than differences. But I look for similarities, I think, rather than differences. I think, yeah.
Thank you, Roger.
Come, if you come, you know, yeah. Let me know what you think. I'm really interested, not in this, I'm really interested in knowing what you think and whether or not I'm wasting my time, actually. That's what I really want to know.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, any comment or question? Well, so then let's give Roger a big round of applause for his presentation.
And thank you to the folks at the back, of course.
Yes, really yes, I wanted to thank our interpreters here. This is also part of a project that we are undertaking here at USAL that has to do with interpreting and the use of artificial intelligence. And then if you have an interest, I can tell you something, but Roger has kindly accepted to be interpreted, and we are going to analyze these interpretations by our colleagues there and our students, and then we'll see if AI can actually match their human intervention. So that is what we are trying to prove, and Roger's presentation being so based on photographs and images actually leads us to believe that human interpreting cannot be overpowered for now by AI. So that's our hypothesis. Then we'll see. We can tell you the results later on if you're interested. So thanks to you, Roger. Thanks, interpreters. Thanks, Paula, for all the technical help, and Juan, because Paula is the head of the School of Modern Languages, and she has kindly provided all the assistance. So thanks, and thanks for coming, and hope to see you at La Botica soon.